Kalle, thanks so much, mate, for joining us on the podcast. Love having you on. How's things, mate?
Very good, mate. How are you? How are you, Spence? How are you, Jake? You well?
Very good, Kalle. Thanks for coming on, mate. Listen, how's your lockdown been, Kalle? Have you been busy, or what's been going on?
Busy, but a different type of busy. You know, I mean, everything is moving, but at a very interestingly slow pace. So, you know, you're trying to put things together, then this changes, then that changes, and you know, you're used to it from a promotional perspective or managerial, whatever you're into in boxing. You know, you're used to injuries, you're used to having to react. And I'm not saying you can control injuries, but you have solutions for them. You know, you're losing fights on scales at the moment because of this. You're having, you know, the opponent can't turn up because he's this, that, and the other test. You know, the whole thing is very different. But having said that, we ain't doing too bad, given that it's still relatively, it sounds terrible now because we're all fed up with it, but it's relatively new, this still, isn't it? You know, I mean, unfortunately, we're just at the start of it, you know? So I think whether you like it or not, people, and I'm not going to make my comments on it, the golden prick, and then we're en route. We're en route to stadiums full again. It's the future. It's the way forward. You know, either you're for it or against it, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're going to have it. I'm telling you. Anyone who says they ain't going to have it, you want your freedom, you will have to have it. And listen, we've had enough good times in our lives and eaten enough. And, you know, let's put it this way. We've all ingested things that are much fucking worse than this vaccine. I can assure you of that, right? And don't give me, you're going to grow a second head. It's one jab. It's not a course of 2 years of tablets you got to take every day. It's a jab. That's my methodology on that.
Have you had the jab? Have you had the jab, Kalle? Yourself? Have you had it yet?
I personally think at least this part of me is definitely in a risk category because I am high risk. I'm high risk that I'm going to explode soon, so I should get the jab. But they've told me I've got to wait. Unfortunately, I mean, I remember March last year. I was sick as a dog, like a lot of people were.
Yeah.
Called them up. I said, "Listen, I need one of these tests, right?" And I was in the UK at the time. They're going, "Right. So, how old are you?" I'm 43. And it was literally like the line went dead. You know, it was. I mean, you know, everyone was saying, "Oh, the rates, this, that." Like you couldn't get. I was dying, and I couldn't get a test. You know. No. Now you got. I mean, I've got tests all over the place. I test myself a few times a week. You know.
Have you had it though? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Spence, it's one of them. I am pretty sure I had the antibodies, so I'm guessing I had it, but did I have a positive test? No, because I couldn't get a bloody test. So
what happened to me, Kalle? I tested positive when I went into the bubble. Who was fighting? Derek Chisora and Usyk. I went to do that fight. Went into the bubble. Nothing wrong with me at all. Had my test. Went to my room. 24 hours later, so I'm sitting in the room. You know how hard that is for 24 hours anyway. Sitting in the room. And I get a phone call, Big Neil, the security guard. "Spence, you're the only one that's come back positive." I'm like, "Fuck off, Neil. Do us a favour, mate. I'm getting ready. We're going to interview Usyk in a minute." He went, "No, I'm being serious, mate. Get your stuff together." So I've got my stuff together. Come up. I had a little whacker there with a spray gun, spraying me with fog. They marched me out of the hotel. I went and got
Sorry, I should be laughing, but
it gets worse. I went to my bedroom. Nicola and Tia went and got tested. They both come back negative, and I sat in my bedroom for 10 days. Didn't come out of the bedroom, right? I wait for this, Kalle, and I thought I was so healthy. I was thinking this is not right. It must be a false positive. I went and got another test 10 days later, and I was positive again. So I did have it, but how it can affect some people in some ways and others another way. But so I feel a little bit.
I think the thing is, I'll be honest, I'm a bit of a hypochondriac. So I think if I got a positive, even if I had no symptoms, within an hour I'd be coughing up. I'd feel like I had a fever. There's something wrong with this thermometer, you know. But you know, everyone's different. You know, there's been, you know, but like you said, we don't really know what it does to everyone. And, you know, some people have obviously, you know, terrible amount of lives lost. But at the end of the day, it doesn't have one pattern, does it? You know, some people have zero symptoms. Few people that are positive for weeks and weeks and weeks, you know. And
well, I was like asymptomatic, and my uncle, who was like a healthy guy, used to run the Finchley ABC. My uncle Colin, he passed away with it right at the beginning. Never drunk, never smoked. You know, he got it in March when it first come around, and passed away within 7 days. So, like you say, it's like you just you just don't know how to deal with it. But
the thing is,
hopefully,
like the question is, do we know that your uncle didn't have some sort of underlying somewhere? You know what I mean? You go in. If they said to me in the hospital, "Well, you've gone in," I'd tick no underlying. But I don't know. The last time I went to a quack, you know, it was about 10 years ago. So I'm hoping, I'm guessing I ain't got no underlying, but we just don't know. So it's a very
it's a tricky one.
Thing.
But look,
imagine the three of us talking on a boxing show about our medical concerns.
Let's get to the boxing.
It's like,
let's get to the boxing. Josh Warrington, Eddie's got his first show kicking off this week. Josh Warrington versus Lara. What's your plans with boxing, Kalle? I mean, you've just signed Chris Eubank Jr. I mean, when are you looking to kick boxing?
April. He'll be out in Germany. He'll be out late April. So will Hrgovic. We're looking both of them in the UK late April. That's something that will be announced in the next couple of weeks. So that's on that part. I mean, there's a lot of from a Team Sauerland point of view. There's a lot of shows going to be happening in Germany. There's an open air one planned in May. There's a big one with Breedis planned also later in May. So it's a case of, I think the first couple of months will be very quiet, you know, and now you're going to see the nice thing is we're going to see a hell of a lot of boxing from all the promoters. You know, I've seen it. My brother takes care of Team Sauerland. I'm doing more the World Boxing Super Series, obviously. But I see the backlog, not just with my brother and Team Sauerland, but in general in the sport. Think like Josh Warrington. He ain't been out since when? Since last March, something like that. Long time ago. So he's going to be probably out a couple of times in the first half of this year, you know. So you're going to see a lot of boxing because a lot of fighters haven't worked, you know. I mean, I know they've been in the gym, but you only work, as you know, Spence. You work when you get paid. Generally, that's what work is, and you don't get paid to train. You get paid to fight. So you've got a lot of fighters who want to get out, promoters who want to get them out, but you know, you can't make up for a lost year in some cases. You know, it's a horrible place for young fighters. I don't feel so much, to be honest, for the season champions. It sometimes happens in life. Most of them did get out last year. If you look at most of the big, I mean, all the guys that we represent at Team Sauerland, the big ones all got out last year. In fact, everyone got out last year. But the big ones, those aren't the ones. You know, it's more the kids who are. You know, the urges. Imagine this hit your career early, Spence. You know, and you're grafting. You know, you're trying to make a career, but you're also trying to get a few quid in. You know, to cover some costs.
What worries me, Kalle, is that you know when you go to the grassroots of boxing, the undercard fighters, the kids that are coming through, and the kids that have not got the support of sponsors and etc. And you worry that they're going to have to turn their backs on the sport because they've got to earn money. They've got to go and they've got to support families. They've got young families. And even the amateurs, where the amateurs are not boxing, they're losing the appetite for it. And we might lose a whole generation of fighters through it.
It sounds dramatic, and hopefully we have turned that corner. I think it's just in the nick of time that we won't. But if for some reason it would have continued, honestly, we would have lost a generation of fighters, you know?
Yeah.
I remember speaking to a few young guys over the first lockdown, good young fighters, and they're like, you know, they're on small money anyways, but that small money isn't too bad because they're out 4, 5, 6 times, you know. So
ticking over.
Ticking over, you know, a bit of sponsorship here and there, local help, a manager maybe, but ultimately this is a long period of time, and let's face it, if you're a promoter, you're not rushing to get everyone out on the undercard straight away. You're trying to keep it compact, keep it neat, you know, and I feel massively for the small hall promoters because, let's face it, boxing with media rights has somehow worked throughout the pandemic. Let's leave aside the first few months, the first lockdown, but when it got back, it hasn't stopped. It stopped a little bit in January, in the first part of February, but you know what? In general, it's ticked over. You know, it hasn't done massive things, but it has ticked over. We've got a few great fights in last year. World Boxing Super Series, we had a great cruiserweight final. It worked, but it didn't work without media rights. You know, there was, you know, so forget sponsorship. You know, promoters can tell you all they like about sponsorship, but sponsorship in boxing has never been the biggest revenue driver, and it never will be. But it's media rights and it's gates, and especially for promoters who are putting on smaller shows, it's, you know,
they just can't do it, can they? I've spoken to a lot of small hall promoters who are just like, you know, just going to have to throw their cards in because they've got to a stage now where they've been out for so long, and for the foreseeable future, Kalle, you know what it's like to run a small hall show without any TV. You need 80% capacity. Listen,
it's impossible. So, you know, even for a small hall model in the best of times, it's a hell of a graft, you know, and it's normally people who just love the sport. But it's, you know, that's the part, and that is the part that worries me when we see that lag effect in a year or two, you know, on fighters coming through, you know.
Yeah. So worried. Have you got a deal with a UK broadcaster at the moment, Kalle? Yeah.
So yeah, Junior obviously is the big poster boy for the UK. So that's something we're in the closing stages of putting together this April date, and he's, like I said, he's going to be out in April. He'll be out in the summer in a much bigger one. You know, the April one is to bring him back into the public eye, but also for him to, you know, to be in a ring again.
Yeah,
you know,
I was talking about you, Kalle. Have you got a UK broadcaster that you're involved in at the moment? Have you got anything on the table?
We did bits and bobs because we don't forget we didn't really have a UK stable, and what we've always done is we've thrown curveballs at the UK market. Yeah. So if you go back through the years, David Hay, George Groves, David Price, Anthony Agogo. But we've never seen ourselves and established as a UK promoter. It's something, you know, obviously you look at, it's a very interesting market, yeah. At the moment, you know, we've signed Chris Eubank Jr. It's a massive, I've said it's a marquee signing, and it's a question, where do you go from there? But at the moment, we're very happy with what we're doing, you know, and it's about working. Those big fights I've talked about, all those fights aren't something under any circumstances that we could do alone, because they involve co-promotion. So if you look at, let's talk about the Golovkin fight, which is something we'd love to do later in the year, that involves 2-3 promoters actually, you know, and probably 2-3 different network deals. It's a very complicated one to put together. Actually, I'll take that back, not complicated. Anyone in boxing who says it's complicated is talking shit. It's a simple one to put together if you want a tango, you know. So, you know, it's not complicated. You know, being a scientist is complicated. Being a boxing promoter is not complicated, you know.
Are you working alongside Eddie with Eubank Jr? Will we see him on the Sky platform? Is that
well, we're in talks with Eddie at the moment. You know, we've worked very well in the past together. We love the Sky platform, of course. It's great. It's done great for us in the past, going back to David Hay years. You know, so it's a fantastic. Apart from them, the experts on Sky are terrible, Spencer. Terrible. I mean, they are shocking.
A bit ropey, aren't they?
Shocking. You know, a lot of them. Good that I don't know any. But no. Jokes aside,
you shouldn't talk about Johnny Nelson like that, mate. It's out of all.
I know, but it's good that Johnny doesn't watch podcasts, so we're all right. So, you know, yeah, bloody hell, that Nelson, don't talk half a fucking load of shit. But no. Well, let me and Johnny go back 20 years. He boxed in Germany, I think 20 years ago now. But don't want to give away his age, you know. He's
he looks good.
Still 21 at heart. No, but the thing that Sky does with fighters is terrific. I think but the UK is an exciting place at the moment. You know, when you see what DAZN has put on in its first 6 weeks of boxing in the UK, it's fantastic. You know, I think BT have also last year, obviously, arguably had the best pay-per-view event with a Wilder Fury. You know, so you know, it's an interesting place. I've heard rumours ITV are going to step up again. We've obviously worked with them in the past with the World Boxing Super Series. So it's, you know, it's an interesting marketplace, but let's hope that the talent matches that, because the talent is everything that, you know, needs to be there. I've seen it in Germany. You know, the German market, 25 years, soaring. I know the numbers in the US. At one stage, the numbers in Germany were bigger than the US market. That's fact. I've seen it, you know.
Do you think is that a huge success for Germany, Kalle, or do you think that's?
No, Germany's a massive media market. So an England match in the past, it's up for Sky, an England football match is about £3.5 million that they were paying an output. I used to trade football rights. In Germany, it's about 6. Okay, wow. So that shows you the level of the markets. And forget the Premier League. I know people are listening and say, but the Premier League is so much more than the Bundesliga. Yeah, it fucking is. We know that. But the Premier League is unique. And guess what? It ain't British anymore, the Premier League. So but cutting that to the side, the German market relied totally on the world champions. So you saw the curve in revenues go massively down, and then they sort of come back up again. You see now there's 4 or 5 Germans in Team Sauerland who are in the top 10 of the world again. So you see, you know, I remember the first show we did with Eddie was Kessler Froch. Listen to that, Carl. Kessler Froch. In front of 18,652 people at the O2 in London, and you know, it was a great event. But at the time, it was the fight that I don't think there was a single world champion in the UK at the time, or if there was, maybe there was one. Yeah, and in Germany there were 5. So it's very quick. So the key in the UK is going to be holding that level, and there's some very interesting guys coming through. You know, there's some very, very good talent coming through. And to be fair, you know, the talent that's there isn't the oldest either. You know, we talk about like AJ, like, you know, he's old. You know, or Fury, like he's old. They're not old. You know, Eubank Jr is 31. You know, so it's good for a few years, but it has to come something after that. And I saw that in Germany. It missed a generation. You see it coming back now, but it missed a generation. There was a few kids. I don't know. You remember Alexander Frenkel?
Yeah, of course.
You know, he was. I mean, he. Sorry, Enzo, to remind you of Alexander Frenkel, but he came over. He did a job on Enzo Macronelli. Fantastic knockout. Sorry, Enzo. But he went off, and unfortunately, he developed very, very serious mental illness, and he could never box again. And those little things, the market was reliant on 1 or 2 people coming through. They didn't come through, actually, for not even for boxing reasons, for completely different things. You know, we had a few that went totally off the rails or went this way, the other, and it can hinge on that thing. So boxing is in a great place at the moment, but it's very important. That's why I talked before about the lockdown situation. For the young talent, we need to keep them in the sport. You know, it won't live forever on Fury and Joshua. You know, that's a nice one for the mainstream. But you need to, and that is the worrying part for me long term. When you look at any market, you know, is that the youngsters. And when I saw that government financing package, you know, I mean, I keep my beak out of politics, but when I saw like the sports they were financing, and I'm not, listen, if you want to play badminton, good luck to you. I'm sure it's a great sport. I remember doing it in the park when I was a kid. But they're, you know, throwing money at badminton. I mean, you know, if there's any sport that is more important in socially deprived areas, it's boxing. Boxing doesn't cost a £5 to pick up a pair of gloves. You know, I remember going down the All Stars in Harrow Road. I think I paid Ake, the governor. I think I paid him £1.60 or something for a session. You know, it was £1.60.
What people don't
and we
realise.
had to put on these gloves. Those gloves, oh my God, my hands still smell today with them. You know?
Yeah, the stink. What people don't realise, Kalle, about those amateur boxing clubs is that they're all funded by like the club boxing shows that they put on. They're non-profitable, them clubs, and they put boxing shows on where the kids box. They put 2 or 3 home shows on, and that basically pays for the building, etc. And now, because obviously what we've been going through in the last year, them shows have not been able to go on. So now they're relying on government funding, and the government funding is just not there. Yeah. So I do understand the problem we've got is a serious one.
But Spence, that is the principle throughout boxing. That's why I've had so many arguments about, you could absolutely at that level, grassroots level, it's all funded that way. You know, it's all funded that way. But I could also take it to the top level and rewind a couple of years ago, and we announced the first show ever in Saudi Arabia. George Groves against Callum Smith. Now, Eddie knows this. He owes me a beer for this because I took the heat. He walked in with Joshua Ruiz and it was all fun. The first press conference, which we held in a lovely hotel in the West End of London, people were, let's say, you know, they didn't let me out of the room too quickly. Yeah. And my simple answer was, what's it got to do with you, right? This is boxing promotion is a private business. It's risk and reward for private individuals. But this is not big companies, you know, boxing promoters. Once again, it goes all the way down to grassroots. Same principle, obviously it's slightly different, but there's no handouts from the government, right? There's no hold on, right? That show did bad, but you help kids get through, and you know the kids on the undercard. That, you know, and don't forget, each kid has got a little team around him supporting them as well. But hold on, no, you've done your lot. Well, you know, so don't moan when you have to go and make a business decision to support a business which might be flat on its arse. You know, boxing promotion is full of ups and downs, but ultimately it's also about business to keep it going. You know, we've been in business for, if I take it all the way, it's probably coming up to 35, 40 years, you know. You know, in the 80s, the old man ran it more as a hobby. But since the early 90s, it's a business that has to do numbers, and it does numbers year in, year out for one reason, because we have to make those business decisions, which, by the way, funds a lot of kids you'll never heard of because they were shit. But we didn't know that when we signed them. They were terrible. I tell you, I've been, a lot of kids, I've gone up to them after 5, 6 fights and said, you know what were you doing before you boxed? Okay, you were a baker. All right, I'll tell you what, you've got 2 fights left on the agreement. You can have those fights. It's going to cost me an opponent. You'll probably win the fights. But you know what? I'll save you a day. I'll give you both of them now. Here you go. That's for you. I save the opponents, and you go be a baker, right? And that conversation I've had 100 times. Yeah. But those unfortunately, I remember, especially in Germany, you have to, we control the market for years and years and years. We still do. And the way we've done it is we put the net out wide, which is very expensive to do, by the way, because you've got to take everything. But you know, like with fishing, when you come home with a big fat tuna, you do get a few goldfish along the way, you know. And you know, there instead of throwing them in and say, listen, keep on trying, don't keep on trying. This sport is not about trying, right? You don't play boxing. So often it's better saying, here you go, have a nice life, you know. Yeah. And I'm still in touch with some of them, and some of them to this day thank me and say, "Oh mate, I can't believe I." You know, and, you know, half of them are nutters, and they wake up one day and they think, "Shit, did I really do that?" It's terrible. And,
Kalle,
and you can see it, you know. And And listen, Spence, you've commentated on enough shit fights on undercards where you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, what is this guy doing in the ring? You know, I mean, listen,
Kalle, you've saved a few
no
broken
claims
bones
here. I have two
lives.
left hands. I have two left hands, and I can assure you I'm not a southpaw. I have two left hands.
Kalle,
But-
Kalle, can I just ask you just how did that first show in Saudi Arabia come about? I mean, what was the how did you come to that idea? How did it all happen? That'd be interesting to know that.
Well, listen, so the World Boxing Super Series is part of a very big media group which controls film studios. It has other rights agencies. It even sells the rights to the Eurovision Song Contest. Yeah. So they have connections everywhere. They've got an approach. Boxing, we've seen this. You know, the Muhammad Ali Trophy, the Champions League of boxing, the World Boxing Super Series, and they love the brand. They bought into the brand before they knew the final. It was done in the quarterfinal stage.
Really?
So it was the first time. And by the way, years and years and years, and any promoter who says they haven't done it are talking a pack of porkies, right? All of us, we've all smelt the gravy train down there, and we've all been down there with our fancy presentations, you know. I'm telling you, and I have seen that out of it, apart from my accountant at the end of the year. Did you really need to go down there 5 times? I said, well, you know, if it worked, if you're not in it, you can't win it. But no one ever managed to do it. So the chairman of the World Boxing Super, the head of the board, he called me up. He said, we got Saudi Arabia, and I said, yeah. I remember I was in Riga for Breedis. It was a quarterfinal against Mike Perez. It was a weigh-in. So I'm like, yep, absolutely, Chairman. That sounds perfect, lovely. Just don't ask me to get on a plane until they sent the check. But they were fantastic partners. We can't go into too much about the money side of things, but very honourable. We got down there. The arena was, you could eat your breakfast off it. You could do your bacon and eggs on the floor. It was the cleanest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was built better than any Western European stadium. It was fantastic. But when everyone was like, oh, it's going to be a sterile crowd. I'm not saying it was the Yule Pool on a Friday night, yeah, but it weren't some of the venues we've done in Germany, you know.
I've been to them ones, some of them ones in Germany. I remember we went to, who was it? Shagayev versus Matt Skelton in Dusseldorf. Years ago. And it was the most weird atmosphere in there when that.
You love the VIP, Spencer. You love the VIP. You know it. You know it, Sam.
But it was a strange atmosphere. I went to Joshua and Ruiz too in Saudi, and I'm the same as you, mate. When I went out there, I was very conscious of how it would be. I couldn't believe how good it was.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
The way that they done things was incredible.
Organised to a T.
Unbelievable.
And fantastic. But mate, you know, it's quite interesting to talk about Shagayev Skelton. I remember that one actually. Dusseldorf, a terrible one. Dusseldorf is another one. So Dusseldorf, right? So there's parts of Germany which actually rival the Yule Pool on a Friday night. Upper crowds, you know. But you got to go deep east. You've got to go deep east. In fact, I'd say better than certain UK crowd because they're all ex-boxers. They all boxed at school. Don't forget, that's where the wall east, you know, they had to box at school. It was like playing football. So they're all ex-boxers.
They've all got knowledge of it. Yeah.
First undercard fight, the arena's full, you know, and you're sitting there and they're really getting into it. But then you go to certain parts, and anyone who's been to a German show knows we love a bit of a VIP party, you know. It's all about that. It's, you know, it goes on to about 5 in the morning. But so I remember the first time we tried one in the UK. Oh, this was hysterical. So we'd be doing these, you know, and you buy the ticket, and honestly, you can eat and booze all night long. There's a DJ on. There's a bit of a dance afterwards. You know, normally the fighters come in a bit. You do a bit. Sometimes there's an auction in there for the robe or something for charity. But great red carpet things. That's why they all get dressed up. And the people it attracts is, of course, it's a bit different to your call on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And I I remember going to a show and Eddie's going to me, right, this was, what was it? It was Cleverly Bellew in Liverpool. And we had Groves was fighting the card. So I've gone Frank, Frank Smith, CEO of Matchroom. I said, give us a couple of VIPs, mate. And met a few friends, new friends in Liverpool the night before. So we, took him into the VIP. I'm thinking, why well, VIP, you know? They've come to me. I've come to the bar. I've gone, I'll have a Stella. So I see Stella the thing. So I'm thinking, pour me a nice pint of cold Stella. Give me a fucking tin of unopened warm Stella. And gone, give me a fiver, mate.
No way.
I thought Frank had done me. I thought he'd sent me the wrong VIP. This is piss take. I'm trying to buy the ladies a drink, you know. So I quickly realised there's a market for this. But yeah, maybe we exploit that in the future. I mean, it's something I just personally believe it's a Saturday night out. I know the UK got different licensing issues, but it's such a good night out. You know, you go and watch the fights and then have a boogie. You know, that's what we've always tried to do with our events. Big walk-ins, the dramatics. You know, we've had Tina Turner, we've had Roland Keating, Meatloaf, Bon Jovi. You know,
but everyone's immaculately dressed at them shows in Germany. Jake, they're in ball gowns and tuxedos and stuff. It's mad.
But the great thing is you get a night out with it. You know, I always think with the O2 events, you've got those things around it, but the culture. I think in the UK you could really have a pop of that party thing on a Saturday. Not at all events. I know there's some that you can't do it at, but a lot of events, I think people love it because every Brit who comes over to the shows in Germany, all my pals from London, they come over and say, oh, look, VIP, you know, they come over in the bus loads just for the VIP. I'm thinking, well, you know, there's boxing on as well, you know, so there's a fine balance to it, you know.
Mind you, I've always liked the dinner show, Spence. You know, when you sit around, have a dinner and all that, and then you got the boxing in the middle. That's like a proper night out, isn't it? You know?
That's why. What was the one down Regent Street? What was the one in Regent Street? Cafe Royale? Was it Cafe Royale?
Yeah, Cafe Royale. Yeah.
I used to go down shows years and years ago.
I watched a few of them.
Yeah, I probably saw you, Spence. I probably saw you on one of them.
Yeah.
Normally at those shows, I can't remember too much. It was always a good night. But,
yeah, the boxing always started after the meal, didn't it? You're in trouble.
Yeah. Good food as well. Good food as well. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Something different.
So listen, Kalle, what's the future of the World Boxing Super Series? What's planned this year? Have we got any weights planned? Have we got any shows planned?
Listen, we should be in the middle of the third season, you know. But it is what it is. Our wretched friend Corona. Now I sound like Boris Johnson. I just got to throw in alas in my next sentence. No, joking aside, we're moving. Realistically, when will we see the first glove thrown in the tournament? I'd probably, if I was a betting man, I'd go in the second half of the year. But it's moving. It will be a tournament this year. And, you know, we have a meeting with the board to present the weights at the end of, probably about the middle to the end of March, which that's when we'll start to really gain momentum.
Right.
And I'm hoping that in the first half of the year we will already have the draw and stuff. But it all depends a little bit on how things progress. But the way it finally looks like we see the end of not just boxing. I'm talking football, concerts, everything. You can see an end to the line now, you know. And for us, it's key about how to stage it. If we have to do it behind closed doors, that's fine. But it's a very different operation when you stage a tournament. If it's got to be behind closed doors, you know. So it's, you know, I think we showed by being the first promoters back after the first lockdown in terms of bringing two world champions together across the Atlantic. It was the first big one, you know, number one against number two in the division. Man, that organization of that fight was probably harder than the last 25 years in boxing, but it was worth it in the end. But I think it showed that you can do it. And you know, like I said, this year later in the year, but we'll still be rocking later this year. I'm sure of it.
And what weight class is that, Kelly? Do you think? Do you anticipate that being?
Look, I mean, Jake, it's the heavyweights is the one that stands out for me still. It's we've obviously got Fury and Joshua doing their thing. We all hope doing the tango somewhere around the summer, early summer. But I just think that there's such a weight class of fights behind that, and it's not even like, normally I'd say, the heavyweights, it's always about the champion, but there's so many great fighters, which by the way, could both beat the top two. Yeah. So there's a fantastic array of fighters, fantastic array of fighters.
Your Joe Joyce, Usyk, Andy Ruiz Juniors, them sort of people. Dillian White,
Dillian Whites, the Povetkins, the Hrgovićs, the Joe Joyces. Even fascinating to see how Dubois comes back now. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great link up, by the way, with Tibbsy. I think it's a fantastic trainer. But there's so much. Myris Breedis just gone up to heavyweight as well. He knocked out the Manuel Charlo on paper as a heavyweight champ. You look at names: Bacoli, Michael Hunter, Robert Elenius Kovnatsky, Tony Yoka. I'm sorry, I'm missing it. Murat Gassiev. The list goes on and on and on and on. So it's like, you talk about 8. It's very difficult to pick your final 8. Whatever we do, we'll get slated for by some and loved for by others. And that's the sort of feeling you want when you see a weight class. But then also you can look at the middleweights, fantastic in there as well at the moment. Absolutely fantastic. We've got the females. Keep on talking about the females. Maybe time to do it now. That will definitely be. Season 3 or season 4 will involve the females. I'm sure of it. We did the super flyers. Maybe go to the flyweights. Love the flyweights. Super fly. We've done the bantams. We've done the super lightweights. And you sort of look at it and go through the different weights you've done and the ones that are possible. I mean,
it's an ongoing thing. You're planning on it staying around for a while.
It's here to stay. I mean, we set out to build what we believe is a great addition to the sport, the Champions League of boxing. I think the brand is, everyone loves it. I think it's gone from strength to strength, and it keeps on delivering those highlight events. Before the pandemic, out of the fights of the year worldwide, globally, 2 of them, including the winner, Inouye Donaire, we also had Progress Taylor in the top 5 out of all the fights in the fight calendar. How many fights do we promote? 10 in the year? There's promoters promoting 50 fights. I'm sure they want to kill us, but that's fact. That is fact. And I remember flying from the Progress Taylor flight to Japan, watching the fight. I think that is amazing. There's no way we could top that. And then Inouye Donaire came. It was, a lot of people even better. And it was similar actually the year before. I remember the cruiserweights. It was Usyk versus Breedis. Was absolute amazing at the highest level. And then a week later, we had Gassiev Dorticos, which was like
insane. I think one thing you're guaranteed with that World Boxing Super Series, every fight, forget just the final, the quarterfinals, semi-finals, everyone is guaranteed. You haven't had a stinker yet. Every fight's incredible,
and it goes down to the quarterfinals.
Yeah,
but I think where we want to get even better is that quarterfinal part. And even try and pack them more. I mean, we've had some great quarterfinals. Just think about, we had Maloney against Rodriguez, was a great bantamweight fight. We had that we've had some great quarterfinals, but still, I think that's one place where maybe we can go even deeper. And if I look at go back to the heavyweights or middleweights or the flyweights, you see the levels, you know, and when you're talking that we could sit together now and we could debate the rest of the evening about what 8 you would pick at heavyweight. Debate about, and we would still not have a solution at midnight, you know. Because there's always an argument to say, you know, this one should have, why he's done this, you know. At the end of the day, you can't really lose, you know. I think, and the biggest winner are the fans.
Brilliant.
You know?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's a great tournament, that, Kalle, because as you say, there's so many options in every different weight class in there, and it's just when you break it down, you know, it's exciting, isn't it? I love the tournament.
No, thanks, Jake. But it's when you look at it, I've got to do a couple of things. We'll also look at, that makes a great weight class, but does it fit time-wise into what we're doing? So are there fighters contracted already into certain fights or whatever? Or is it, you know, how does the network situation work out? You know, what politics are involved?
It must be so complicated, that, Kalle.
So that's the headache part. But in general, you know what? Like I said before, it's not rocket science. You know, I try and make my job much more complicated than it is. You know, it really is. It's a breeze. It's a lovely job. I'm not moaning, but it's like a headache, a nice one to have. You look at it and you think, you know, how can I marry them together? And ultimately, you know, you've got to get on with the promoters as well.
Yeah,
just quickly, Kalle, as well. Just what's the deal with Eubank Jr? How many fights have you got him for? What have you guys agreed?
I can't remember the exact terms of how many fights, but it's a long deal. A couple of years, you know, it's a long-term deal. So it's not just a 2-fight deal or something. You know. Sometimes as a promoter, you sign a fighter for a fight, and you like to say, you know, but no, this is a long one. This is a long one.
And what's the plan with Chris? You must have sat down with him.
Jake? I think this year, if we could go through following a good comeback fight, i.e., getting back in the ring, shake the rust off, you know, go to the summer. Kelbrook, love that fight. Big summer show, love that fight. And then go Golovkin in October, November. So I'm just about to dial up that number for the pizza. I'm going to put that as my toppings, and let's see what comes out the other side. Huh? No, that's you've got to start somewhere. You know.
So you're planning on getting him out 3 times this year, maybe?
Oh, that will happen. Even if it's maybe not in that order of opponents, you know. Right. I mean, Golovkin said before his last fight, he said 2 opponents. One was Junior and one was someone else. Were his aim opponents for this year. So, you know, they both want a tango. You know, if you've got 2 dance partners who want to dance, it generally happens. That's what I found, at least. Spencer, why are you smiling?
You just entertain me, mate. It's brilliant.
It's true, though. It's true. I mean,
I'm smiling because you're right.
You see a lady and she wants to dance and you want to dance, you know, things are
going to happen.
Yeah, it's no different in boxing.
Mate, I love your analysis of getting 2 fighters together.
You know, it's like...
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, I was going to say a very rude analogy there, but I won't get myself into trouble again. But that's what it is. And Jake, come back to your thing. So, 3 times this year.
Yeah.
You know, in boxing, you know, you always hope you win and win and win. And I think at middleweight, it's his weight. He might still grow into the let's say the super middleweight category, but I think he carries a physical advantage at middleweight. In fact, if I was really hard, I think he could make junior middle. You know, if you look at the way he's built and, you know, he trains. I mean, you know, people talk about his social media. I mean, I'm jealous. I mean, who spends not Christmas Eve, but New Year's Eve with Dan Bilzerian? I mean, that is like that's one of my dreams come true. You know, I mean, that is for me. I was heartbroken when I saw that. You know, I'm like, you know, money can't buy that. You know, a night out with Dan Bilzerian, or that is for me. You know, mate.
I think you'd be a good player.
That is the reason why we signed him, because I'm that much closer for a night out with Dan Bilzerian. But no, but joking,
that's as good a reason as any.
The real truth. I was laying around at Christmas. I'd had a couple of glasses. I saw him on Instagram with Dan Bilzerian. I thought, I need that. I need him to get to him. No, but I really think he can take over that division. I really do. I really do.
Brilliant. Great stuff, mate. Listen, Kalle, as always, mate, been fantastic. Appreciate your time. I'm looking at the clock, mate, and I know you're on a curfew. I know that you'll get a slap off the old woman if you don't get off here by.
Nice. Listen, I've got one more, and it's Tottenham. You know, there's no way. It's like prayer time for me. You know?
Yeah.
Tottenham.
Yeah.
We're probably gonna get that from Everton tonight. So,
but I hope not, mate. I'm a Tottenham fan as well. But Jake's like, I can see him going red there now. He's fuming. He's a gooner, isn't he, Jake?
What people don't know is that me and Spencer are both proper North London boys. I used to drink in Spencer's pub.
That's right.
When I had Boris up that way, when I had my lady up that way.
Boris.
We won't say what pub that is, Spencer. We'll keep that between ourselves.
Absolutely, old mate. Absolutely.
We'll keep that off the podcast.
Before Kalle goes, right, this is a true story. When we first met, and I thought, because obviously he's based out in Germany and he does Team Sauerland and everything else, it was at the Froch Kessler fight.
Yeah.
And it was in 2013, and I met him in the gym, and so I'm expecting Kalle to speak German. So I've gone up, Kalle, how you doing, mate? And he's come back more cockney than me, and then he threw that curveball at me. He went, I used to live just up the road from you, and I used to come, and I was like, and that's how it all come together, wasn't it? From then,
but Spence, you remember the link? There was a pal of yours. I was away with England. It was when I was a kid. It was early 20s.
Yeah.
And I went with England to as a fan. I didn't play for England to the Euros in Holland.
Yeah.
And I met some of your mob out in, where was it? We were in Eindhoven before the Portugal game. And we were singing and dancing in the square. And I was like, and talking about boxing. He goes, oh, Spencer Oliver's my best pal. He's my neighbour. He's this, he's that. You know, so, and for years I used to see him. Good lad. I forgot his name now. It's years and years ago. Top boy. Yeah. And so we had a link that goes back 20 years, Spence.
Yeah, I know. It's mad, mate. It's insane. And it's funny. You would have probably picked
we
up.
We could have ended up in-laws somehow, you know. We could have ended up in-laws. I was down in manner that often.
You know?
Hey, never say never, Spence. Never say never.
Absolutely, Kalle. All right, brilliant. Right, listen, it's been fantastic having you on as always, mate. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
And come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Lily Whites. Spurs. Open out, gents.
All right, take care, mate.
Take care, man.
Cheers.
Ciao.